Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into really just one single super influential narrative. It's one that shaped how millions view their goals, their destiny, Our source material gives us this great summary of Paulo Coelho's classic, The Alchemist, and it frames it in this philosophical context, Parusavedi. The whole story gets framed as, and I quote, the magical journey where the universe helps you follow your dream.
Yeah, that specific phrase, the universe helps you or cooperates, that's really the heart of what we're digging into from this source. Our mission here isn't just like retelling the story of Santiago the shepherd boy. It's more about pulling out those clear philosophical nuggets, the roadmap, sort of that this story offers for anyone who's chasing something big.
Right. And the setup, it feels almost like a fairy tale, doesn't it? Santiago, he's a shepherd. He has this dream over and over about treasure hidden way off under the pyramids in Egypt. He's pretty comfortable, he's got his sheep, life is okay. But the dream just won't leave him alone. So he decides to go for it. But, almost right away, the source points out, he hits a wall, he gets cheated, loses everything.
Exactly. And that moment, that first big setback, it immediately sets the tone for the whole philosophy of this journey.
Yeah.
I mean, most people, they turn back and say, okay, message received, bad idea. But the narrative introduces this concept of Sankatam signs. It suggests these initial hurdles aren't failures, they're necessary instructions. The source says he learned a great lesson right then. Every single thing that happens, good or bad, it's actually part of the curriculum for the path.
Okay, I get that reframing intellectually, but let's be real for a second. If you're listening, and maybe you just poured your savings into a startup that failed or a big move that went sideways, how is losing everything a sign? Isn't it just, a disaster? Is that advice actually practical when you can't afford that kind of hit?
That's a really fair and honestly crucial question. Because the philosophy here, it's not really focused on, say, financial security above all else. It's focused on transformation. The loss, it forces Santiago to stop and work. He has to take that job with the crystal merchant, and this is where you start to see that cooperation idea in action, right? The source shows how being forced into that situation, he ends up learning a new language, he learns about business, about patience, skills he absolutely needed later for the desert crossing.
So the setback wasn't punishment, it was more like prep school. Unwanted prep school maybe, but still.
Yeah, exactly, prep school. And it leads him directly, actually, to his first really big guide, the old king, Melchizedek. And this meeting is where the whole idea of destiny, what the book calls the personal legend, gets really solidified.
Right. And Melchizedek delivers what is basically the thesis statement for the entire story, doesn't he? That quote we flagged earlier as the most crucial piece of knowledge.
Yes, that core affirmation. He tells Santiago, when you follow your true dream, the entire universe cooperates with you. It's presented not just as wishful thinking, but as a kind of cosmic law. The king talks about this current or flow in the world that actually kicks in to help once you commit.
That's powerful. It really shifts things, doesn't it? It flips the world from being potentially hostile to actually being on your side. So for you listening, if you're thinking about that big leap, this idea suggests the world is sort of designed to help not block you, provided the dream is true for you.
And that help, it often shows up in ways that seem small, maybe even coincidental. Like you mentioned, the crystal merchant. He didn't give Santiago directions to Egypt, but working in that shop, it was the perfect place for Santiago to earn back his money, yes, but also to practice trust, learn how to connect with different kinds of people. That's the universe cooperating, putting the right resources, the right teachers, right where they're needed, even if the lesson seems totally off topic from the main goal at the time.
Okay, so Santiago keeps going deeper into the desert, and the challenges, they get less about money and more existential, I guess. He runs into not just the physical stuff, but deep human connection too. He meets Fatima at the oasis.
And this is such a critical point. In a lot of quest stories, love becomes the big detour, the thing that pulls the hero off track. But the source really emphasizes that Santiago and Fatima, they shared something deeper, like a love that understood the soul. She wasn't presented as a complication at all. She was almost another sign that he was on the right path.
Because she didn't cling. She didn't say, stay here with me, forget the pyramids.
Quite the opposite. She insisted he keep going. Her commitment was actually really profound. She tells him straight up, I'll wait. Go reach your destination. The philosophy embedded there seems to be that real love, that soul-level connection, understands that the personal legend comes first. Because fulfilling that destiny is what makes the person whole. She seemed to get that a Santiago who settled, who gave up, wouldn't really be the Santiago she loved.
That's a really insightful way to look at supportive relationships. Okay, so he moves from the philosopher king Melchizedek and the faithful lover, Fatima, to the actual hands-on master of the esoteric stuff, the alchemist. Melchizedek laid the foundation, the why. What did the alchemist teach him about the how, especially about this idea of true gold?
Right. The alchemist is like the final mentor, the one who shifts the focus completely inward. His core teaching basically redefines what success even means. He says, true gold is not external. It is hidden within us.
Mm.
That treasure chest under the pyramids, that's just the shiny object. The
Mm.
real alchemy, the real transformation is internal. It's realizing your own potential.
So the alchemist wasn't literally just teaching him how to, like, turn lead into gold bars. It was metaphorical. He was teaching Santiago how to transform his own base elements, his fear, his doubt, into something strong, something valuable.
Precisely. He confirms that your heart, your soul, that persistent dream you have, that is your true direction. The journey becomes less about finding a physical thing and more about learning to listen. Learning the language of the universe, listening to the wind, the desert, and maybe most importantly, trusting that voice inside, his own heart. The alchemist pushes Santiago into these, well, frankly, crazy situations, like telling him to talk to the wind. Not because he needs magic powers, per se, but because Santiago needs to believe his inner knowing more than what seems possible externally. That belief, that's the inner gold.
Okay, so with all this inner work done, this transformation supposedly complete, Santiago finally makes it. He gets to the pyramids, the destination, the place from the dream he risked absolutely everything for.
And here comes the gut punch. The big, iconic twist in the story. He digs where the dream told him to dig, he searches, and the treasure, the actual gold and silver he'd been chasing across the world, it's just not there. It's that moment where Santiago and us reading along have to think, wait, was this whole thing just a huge, colossal waste of time? In normal terms, a failure.
Yeah, talk about an anticlimax. After all that talk of universal cooperation, cosmic signs, the promised reward is just absent. What stops him from just collapsing in despair right there?
The signs, the Sanctium, they show up one last crucial time, but in a really harsh way. He gets attacked, robbed, beaten by these refugees or thieves near the pyramids. And through that awful encounter, one of the attackers actually mocks him. He reveals that he had a recurring dream, too, about a treasure buried back in Spain under a sycamore tree and a ruined church.
Hold on. Wait, so the final clue, the sign that leads to the actual treasure, it comes from the guy who just beat him senseless and stole from him. That's taking the idea of universal cooperation into some pretty dark territory, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But it hammers home that core lesson again, maybe in its most extreme form. The universe uses everything, even violence, even antagonism, to guide you if you're paying attention. The sign tells him the treasure he was looking for was actually back in his homeland, his Swastilam, right back where he started, under the exact tree where he first had the dream.
Wow, so he literally crossed the world and back again, only to find out the prize was in his own backyard all along. The irony is just staggering.
It is staggering. But here's the absolute key point, the distinction that makes the whole journey worthwhile. If he had never left, if he just stayed a shepherd and dug a hole because of a random dream, he might have found the gold, sure. But he would have just been a shepherd with money. The journey wasn't just to get to Egypt. The journey was necessary to get that final piece of information, the exact location which came, ironically, from the thief in Egypt.
Ah, okay. So he needed the whole detour to understand where home truly was, in a sense. He returns to that old church, digs into the tree, and there it is. The actual, tangible chest of gold and silver.
Exactly. And this brings us to the ultimate lesson, the final realization. The source notes that Santiago laughs when he finds it. Why laugh? Because he finally understood. He realized the gold and jewels in the chest. Their material value was like nothing compared to the real wealth he'd gained.
Right. That's the core takeaway for us, for the listener, isn't it? It's all wrapped up in that laughter.
Yes, absolutely. The journey itself is the real wealth. The real win wasn't finding the chest. It was believing in the dream in the first place. He was enduring the setbacks, learning the language of the world, connecting with Fatima and the alchemist, gaining the wisdom. Wisdom to even recognize the final sign when it came in such a brutal way. The treasure was just the excuse, maybe. The transformation was the actual point.
That really crystallizes it. So if we boil down the core messages from this deep dive into Parusavedi, this interpretation of the alchemist, what are the, say, top 3 actionable takeaways Santiago's journey gives us?
Okay, first, and this feels like the absolute foundation, listen to your heart. Seriously, it's not just, feel-good advice. The narrative explicitly says That is where the universe speaks.
Hmm.
Your heart is like your personal antenna tuning into that bigger cooperative system.
Got it. Listen to the heart. What's number two?
Number two is that the universe really does provide what you strongly believe in. It's presented as an active response. It responds to your conviction, your alignment with your path.
Hmm?
It's not just luck or random chance. You sort of have to step out expecting that help is available.
Okay, listen to the heart, believe strongly. And the third?
And the third takeaway is about perspective on hardship. The past might be incredibly hard. I mean, Santiago faced being cheated, stranded, war, the threat of death. But the philosophy here demands that we try to see every step, every experience, even the really painful ones, as a kind of miracle. Something that's actually pushing you closer to figuring yourself out, self-realization.
It completely reframes how we usually think about success, doesn't it? We tend to look at the end result, the outcome, the tangible reward. This story really emphasizes that the destination, it's almost secondary. It's the growth, the wisdom you pick up along the way that's the real prize. Without that whole crazy journey, Santiago wouldn't have become the person capable of understanding what he'd truly gained. He'd just have stuff, gold. But because of the journey, he became the alchemist, in a way.
Exactly. He gained this fundamental understanding of himself, his own resilience, his connection to everything. He learned to master his destiny because he allowed himself to be guided, even when that guidance looked like failure or danger.
So for you listening, if you have that nagging feeling, that dream, that thing the book calls your personal legend, this philosophy is basically saying, commit, go all in. Santiago's story suggests the universe isn't sitting back waiting for you to be perfect. It's ready to start cooperating the moment you start moving, even if you stumble right out of the gate.
Mm. And that amazing irony, right? Traveling all that way just to find the treasure was back home. That leads us to one last thought for you to maybe chew on. If the journey is the true wealth, take a look at your own life right now, your current struggles.
Yeah.
What thing feels like a major complication? What obstacle are you desperately trying to get around? That thing that feels like your personal version of being robbed in the desert. Could that difficulty, that very struggle, actually be your greatest asset in disguise? Could it be the necessary ingredient for creating your own inner gold?
Something to definitely mull over as you start your own next journey, big or small.